different headings that we do have in Unit 3, which has got a title called Digital Photography, and what exactly is the meaning of digital photography and how is it different from traditional photography. Then what aspects of digital photography need to be understood. Then what are the stages in processing digital photography or digital imaging. Then how many different steps are there, and what are the typical file formats that we come across whenever we thought of digital photograph. Then what are the steps and photomicrography concepts, photogrammetry concepts, microphotography concepts, then the CCTV footage, of course, and what different cases the digital photography figures as an evidence, and what are the capabilities of the forensic science laboratory, what kind of problems are projected to the lab, and in what different cases. Then of course ultimately after the analysis gets over, what are the different softwares that normally the FSL people employ in order to answer the questions raised by the investigating officer. And once that is being done, now in the court, after all, when you submit the report, then what is the admissibility criteria? Because not every evidence is accepted. You may think that to be an evidence, but ultimately it is the court. It is the court, after all, the final authority. It is the final authority which will decide the admissibility factor of the evidence. Now, what is the requirement as per the old law? Because since it is the new act has not come into force, now we need to discuss something about the Evidence Act, under which there is an amendment called 65B, and which mandates that any evidence, digital evidence, if you submit to the court, then that evidence should accompany by what is known as a digital certificate, one certificate saying that this is normally being put up to use, and that computer was working during that period, and then there were no repairs that have been carried forward. And all. Yes?
Are you sharing the screen, ma'am?
I am not sharing, because this is from that point I have focused the screen and I have not shared the screen. Because you have missed out the class, I thought I will just brief you about those things. I have not yet shared the what you call the screen. See, these are all the aspects, and finally the admissibility factor, where we need to talk about the 65B under the Evidence Act. And 65B also clearly gives you what should be the format and who should be the competent authority who is supposed to issue the 65B and how it has to be presented and all. That is a separate aspects, and something about a digital watermarking also we need to study, because that's also there in the syllabus. And of course what is radiography, and then how this digital photography is helping in presenting evidences, whether it be a ballistic report, or whether it be a datum report, or be it a question document report. I mean, these need to be supported by the photographs, isn't it? Now, what are those photographs are called, and what is the difference between micro photography and photomicrography? And photogrammetry is another concept. Like that, everything related to the digital photography is incorporated in the Unit 3. So that's what we have given some definitions, some portions been covered. Now we need to cover from the we have to resume from the rest of the portion. Is that clear? So digital watermarking, I think I need to share the screen from now onward. Just hold for a second. I'm trying to connect it. Wait for a second. Angel, I think, is also trying to join. One second, there is a disconnect between the PowerPoint and this thing, trying to restore that. Just give me 1 second. So we are talking about the watermarking. Now, digital watermarking, how is it different from the other markings? Now, why do we put watermarking? Because watermarking will give you a unique identifying feature. So because I am a owner of a particular proprietary item or a particular file or an image, now in order to protect my own ownership there, which is proprietary for me, I need to have some unique identifying feature attached to my image, so that if somebody is claiming or somebody erroneously are trying to erase that watermark and then try to claim as if that it is his own product or proprietary item, then the watermarking is definitely is going to help me out, because most of the time the watermarks they get embedded. They get embedded in the I think formats and all we have discussed, software and all we have discussed now, digital watermarking. See, the idea behind, as I said, the watermarking, or in order to not embedded, this is embed, E-M-B-E-D, embedded. So embedded means it is attached rather to a file or image. So the idea is that, I am able to prove that it is my own work. I am the rightful owner of this particular image or a file, because I have put this watermark, which has got a very unique identifying feature. Since I alone has created this identifying feature, and since I can establish this is my identifying feature, and thereby establish the fact that I am the rightful owner. So this is what is known as the watermarking. So digital watermarking is one unique identifying feature which normally gets embedded in a file or onto an image, and this will enable the rightful owner to claim that it is my own property. I have generated this, and this file or image or whatever figure is my own creation, my own property. So in order to prove that, we incorporate what is known as digital watermarking. Now, how many kinds of watermarking are there is the next step. Now, as you can see, there are two types of digital watermarking, visible and then invisible. Hope I am audible.
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
So, what is the difference? Since we are categorizing the watermarks as to visible and invisible, as the name implies, you can understand that visible is the one where the watermarking is a little visible, and invisible watermarking is one where it is not visible. So that is how from the name we can infer. Now what exactly by definition are these things? Now a visible watermark, so where is this mark put? It has to be on a file or a image, isn't it? So it is very similar to, so we have some corporate kind of a company. So it will have a logo, isn't it? So whenever you take a letterhead, somebody who is the higher up in the authority, you see, they are going to write a letter, and then how do you know that this letter has originated from a particular company and all, and who is the authorized person, whether the person whose signature is appended here, is it authentic, or is there any authenticity attached to it and all, Normally there is a logo. It is very similar to logo on a letterhead, and it is semi-transparent identifier, and it again the purpose is to prove the ownership. So a visible watermark, as the name implies, is semi-transparent identifier and it is also very much visible. In similarity, it is just like any logo that has been put by the corporate kind of a company, and normally in all letterheads and all we do keep, even the articles that we do get these days from Amazon and all, they also bear a kind of a visible watermark over it. So this is the visible one. Now invisible ones are those, as the name implies, are not very much visible, but rather they get embedded completely into the file and they are invisible and can be extracted. So in order to know that there is a watermark and that is invisible, so you need to subject it to digital process and try to extract that watermark and then verify whether, as claimed by the owner, is he the rightful owner or not. No, for the purpose of deciphering the invisible watermark, since it's not visible, so what do we need to do? We have to extract by using some software kind of a thing. We need to digitally extract that embedded watermark, and then once that is extracted, the next step would be to verify. If he is the rightful owner or proper owner, definitely he will also have a facsimile of that or at least a replica of that, and on production of that you also would verify, compare, and then say yes, it is exactly matching, thereby he is the rightful owner kind of a thing that you can establish. Is my voice audible? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
ठीक है. So invisible category is one and visible category is another. Now the ideal digital watermark is one that is impossible to erase. So what do you understand? So anything which is ideal is a perfect thing. So when you talk of an ideal watermark, then it should be impossible to erase. Whatever method you may employ, it is so difficult that you cannot by any means eradicate or erase that watermark. But then what is the reality? For everything there is a remedy. Even thieves and then even the persons who try to rob this watermark or erase the watermark, they also have their own ways and means, methods by which they can also erase. So we cannot say it is little difficult, but you cannot say that it is completely not possible, but then little difficult because a lot of advances are happening in the technology. So whenever somebody tries to erase that, and then they will also come to adopt new technologies and then ensure that by whatever means somebody is trying to erase it, so due to advances in technology they are also trying to incorporate, embed the watermark such that it becomes difficult for him to erase it completely. Even if he may think that he is successful in completely erasing, but maybe there are some digital footmarks or digital traces through which you can still say that somebody is trying to erase the number and he is not the real owner kind of a thing. So that is the difference between visible and then the invisible watermarks. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So moving on to the next concept called the photogrammetry. Now we know that photographs are 2D images. Are photographs 2D or 3D? It has only length and breadth. It doesn't have a height thing. So we say that photographs are only 2D images. Now from measuring distances through these 2D images, if you can measure and create a scene, 3D scene, that is exactly what is called as photogrammetry. So it is a process of measuring. So even otherwise also we can physically take the measurements. But then here what we have is the photographs only. So from the photographs, that too which is only a 2D image, we try to measure the distances and thereby extrapolate it so that you can just equate that to the 3D scene. Now the field can be combined with computer vision. So what are all the other tools? 2D cannot simply become 3D scene. So there is some paraphernalia that is required. So what is that we require? in photogrammetry, in order to convert the 3D image measurement into 2D image measurement to 3D image measurement, we require, of course, computer, imaging processes, analysis. These are all required for reconstruction of the scene, and how the objects in the scene are arranged, what is the relative distance between them, and then whether how they are scattered and all. For that, only best way is to measure. Now, from a 2D image that is there as a photograph, you are trying to measure the distances, and then you are also using some concepts of image processing and analysis and some computer vision and all. You are trying to recreate the entire scene, and what are all the distances, and you are escalating that 2D image by measurement to that of a reality, that is 3D scene. So this is called as the photogrammetry. So photogrammetry, you are taking measurements of the images, then measuring a 3D scene from a 2D scene. That means 2D photographs are there. There are different objects present over in the scene. You are trying to measure the distances between the crucial evidence and the other evidences. Then you are applying some imaging processes, techniques, some analysis techniques, and thereby from the 2D itself you are going to generate what is known as a 3D scene, and then where the measurements are very near to the accurate readings. So this is basically used in the reconstruction of the scene. So this is about, this is a 2 marks question, what is photogrammetry, and then explain the technique and all. I mean, it is only 2 marks question. Now comes the concept of photomicrography. So as the name implies, photomicrography. Now the photos are visible, normal photos are visible. Now what is this photomicrography? Now that means we have a lot of instruments in FSL. Now stereo microscope, comparison microscope, isn't it? And then compound microscope, phase contrast microscope, polarized microscope, a lot many microscopes are there for us. Now in order to convince the court, after all your reports are there, but then reports need to be padded up by photographs, isn't it? Now whatever you observe under the microscope, you cannot bring the court to the lab and then say, this is how the matching is. I am trying to measure, I am trying to observe these striations that are there on 2 bullets which are juxtaposed, one by the side of the other, and I have taken a photograph. There is a camera attached to the microscope, and I can see the halves, both halves of the quotient sample as well as the control sample, which is testified one, and I am trying to rotate, and this is the angle where I am getting complete agreement of all the striations. So I have clicked the camera because I have attached a camera on the top of the microscope, and this is the photograph. So this type of photographs are called photomicrography. Otherwise these striations are not very much visible. I don't say invisible, but they are not very much visible to the naked eye. So in order to make the striations more apparent, more clear, what do? We attach a camera on the top of the comparison microscope. I think comparison microscope is covered for you in S2P2. Is that covered?
No, ma'am.
But microscope is also there in the second paper.
Yes, ma'am.
Which unit is in progress now? Unit paper 2 mein?
1 and 2.
That means
Both spectroscopy and microscopy.
So that means that is
Started, ma'am.
started.
Yes,
So every unit is simultaneously going on. Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 4.
yes, ma'am.
So I mean different faculties are taking different units. You know?
Yes, ma'am.
But anyway, you have some rough idea as to what a comparison microscope is. So comparison microscope, as the name implies, it is used for the purpose of comparing. What is that we try to compare? Because most of the time what the forensic scientist is presented with in the scene is that there is a questioned item whose origin is not known to us. Like in this scene, if it is a case of firearm, you see some empty cartridge cases. Now you have collected as an IO, you have collected those things, and you do not know which particular firearm fired this, and in the process of investigation you also went to the so-called suspect, and from the suspect's premises you also try to seize the firearm along with some live cartridges, and this is known source, you know that this is from the accused only, that becomes known source or control. Now all these exhibits you are submitting to the lab. So what are the exhibits that you are trying to collect? The ones, the empty cartridges from the scene of offense whose origin is yet to be established, that becomes questioned, you are submitting that. Along with that, under the cover of Panchanama, you have also raided the premises of the accused. From his position under the cover of Panchanama, you have seized the firearm along with some live cartridges. So all these 3-4 items are sent to the lab now. Now lab, what they do is they try to conduct, because since a suspected firearm is also there, live rounds are also there. So what they try to do is they test fire using the same weapon, and the live cartridges are there. They try to test fire the live cartridge and obtain the spent cartridge case and recover that spent cartridge, and that becomes the control. Now what the scientist does is focus this questioned empty cartridge, and then on one platform of the comparison microscope, and the other platform he is going to mount the control empty case. Now there is a provision in the comparison microscope to rotate the exhibit, both the exhibits in different directions, so that when the cartridge cases are fired out, there are typical marks that are acquired. So now these marks are so unique, because no two empty cartridge cases will have the same type of marking present over them, unless until they are fired from the same weapon. This is the logic. Now on rotation, if the scientist finds that the striation and both quotient and control, that is the testified empty cartridge case, are in complete agreement, thereby the conclusion that can be drawn is that they are fired from the same cartridge. So for this conclusion to be drawn, it is okay, you have observed under the microscope, you are a scientist, you can understand, but then you also should make it understandable to the judge. After all, he has to pronounce the judgment, isn't it? So for him to understand all this, these photo micrographs, what we have discussed under this, are going to greatly help. How? Because there are high-end comparison microscopes where there is a provision on the top of the eyepiece, you can fix a camera. Now this camera, the moment you are sure that there is a match, then you have to freeze and then take a photograph of that, and that photographs will give you half of the image of the quotient and half the image of the control, and that shows the agreement. You can physically also mark the points of comparison, like in fingerprints you mark the characteristic features. Similarly, and the photograph also, you can mark out the points of comparison, and it becomes so obvious. Now once you have something on hand, you can also show it to the judge. So this way the photo micrographs are very, very handy. Of course your report is there. Report has to be supported, it has to be justified by photo micrography. So you name any division, now every division will have some photo micrography or the other. Just for example, diatoms you can also produce photo micrographs, then hair you can produce photo micrographs, or anything, some pollen you have to examine, then that photographs can also be taken. So photo micrographs are that way helpful in all the divisions, and it also helps the judiciary to understand that there is an agreement and there is a disagreement, and points of comparison are also given in the report. Then read all that and then come to conclusion. I hope photo micrography is clear. Is that clear? Then moving on to the reverse, micro photography. You can see the photographs here. There is a comparison microscope that is given, and the wrong picture I have just taken from somebody. I have not prepared this, but the platform is not that. It will have two platforms. So whereby you can rotate both the platforms, and then from the eyepiece, if you see, you will get the half of the image of the question and half of the image of the control. So this is about the photomicrograph. You can keep any item, any exhibit, and this is photogrammetry. Now you can see extreme left and extreme right photos. So extreme left is a simple photography, isn't it? You are measuring the distances, escalating it using that image processing techniques, analysis techniques. You are able to generate a 3D dimension, 3D thing. So this is what is known as photogrammetry. So the other one is photomicrography. Then coming to the other one, microphotography. Don't get confused between photomicrography, microphotography. These two are different. Now, if you want some documents to be taken as photograph. Now, documents are so bulky, books are so bulky, papers are so bulky. For you to retrieve any information out of these documents, it will be very, very difficult unless until you store them in a different compressed form, miniature form. It will be easy. So this is called microphotography. That means you are taking the images of the items of your choice in a small film. Here the film itself is small, and therefore if it is a small film, the images that can get captured on that also will be small, isn't it? And otherwise you will not be able to see them at all. If you want to decipher and see what the image is, what the details of the image is, then you need to definitely use some magnification. Now, this the size of the photograph is drastically reduced here, and if you want to know the details anyway of the photograph that is being taken, you require a microscope. This is the reverse of the other one we have discussed. Now, the microphotography, the photographer uses special negative. So here the difference is, in normal photography we use a different film. Now when you talk of microphotography, there is a special negative that is being used called the microfilm. Now this microfilm will enable us to preserve the images for very long. Not only it saves a lot of space, and you can save them for a very long duration without the constraint of space and all. So this is the advantage of microphotography. So the difference is, in microphotography there is a special negative called microfilm, number one, and normally you will not be able to see any details of the image because the size of the image is so small that gets captured in the microfilm. If at all you want to know the details of that image through the film, you have to use the help of, you have to take the help of a magnified lens or some kind of a microscope only. Now, this will help us in saving lot of space, because otherwise the physical books and all, documents and all, some documents, as per the government requirement, you may have to, especially the court proceedings, court documents and all, because there is appeal time also for that, and from one appellate court to the other appellate court, people do refer the case and all. So it is mandatory that some documents for a very long duration they need to be preserved. Now the physical form, if you are going to preserve it, the longevity will not be that much, because each item will have its own life. Now as it ages, the ink on it may fade, the paper may become little worn out. So in order to avoid all these things, now the latest thing is that you take a microfilm, a special negative, so that the image of the evidence which you are interested in can be captured in the form of a small image in that microfilm. And it has got a twin advantage. One is that you can store it for a very long duration, then retrieval of information becomes very easy, and not only that, and since it is a miniature form, it is not going to occupy much space. So that's all about the micro photography. So we have seen photomicrography, microphotography, photogrammetry. So these things, microphotography, photomicrography, they can come for 4 marks question, and the other thing, photogrammetry and all, is for 2 marks question. And I hope you have seen that question bank which I have shared along with the PowerPoints. I have shared the question bank. Now you should start preparing answers for that, and not all questions will come for your mid-semester exam. We will be choosy, we will take some 2 marks question, 4 marks question and all, and prepare the MSc paper. And it will be online only, Socrative type of app will be used. And last time also you have done, you are familiar with that kind of an app, I suppose. So same thing will be adopted this time also. And tentative exam dates probably are between 1 and 3 of April, because since I have to conduct only one paper, any one of these days I will conduct that. I will upload that paper into that app, then you need to download and start answering, and there is a time bar. So before that time bar you are supposed to write and submit your answer online. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So last time also you did for semester 1. I don't think there is any difficulty in understanding or following it for the second sem. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am, it's clear.
And everybody got that MSc, your mid-semester exam question bank?
Yes, ma'am.
Huh.
Paper 1.
Because I am teaching only paper 1, I can give for paper 1 only. Paper 2 and all somebody else from headquarters is teaching, isn't it? So you need to ask them for the question bank. Because earlier also I have given, so I thought it will be easy. So that is how you can read, otherwise you don't find time to read at all. Only when I say, and that I will also take it for assignment. You can take this as assignment also. Some more questions from the remaining 2 units also shortly I will be giving. And together that I will consider as a TA2, because we need to conduct TA2 also. TA1 got over in the form of PPT, isn't it? So that is over. Now I am supposed to conduct one TA2 also. That will be done after the MSc exam. So I'll instead of conducting again a test, what I feel is this question bank which I have already given, and I am going to give 2 more from 2 units. So all put together for all 4 units, there will be only one assignment. That will be treated as TA2. Is that okay?
Okay.
But you should start writing whatever is given so far, you start writing answers for that, so that at least some familiarity you will get with the answer. And whatever I have taught is there already given as PowerPoint. So questions I have framed from that PowerPoint only. So no issue as long as at least you give a reading to the PowerPoint, and even if you try to see it and then write, that means you are reading it once at least. So that way it will help you. But anyway, coming to the proper. Now we have understood these concepts of microphotography, photomicrography, grammetry, photogrammetry and all we have understood. Now coming to radiography, now we have learned in unit 1 also that there are 2 radiographs, one we can take with X-ray and then another one with neutron, isn't it? That we have already seen. And in what way neutron radiography is better than the X-ray radiography. Then without, it's also a kind of a non-destructive, because you are not opening the body and then you are just allowing some rays to pass into your skin. And then when you talk of skin and all, the soft version of the X-ray only need to be used, isn't it? Because hard X-rays are a little harmful to the body and all. So somebody, especially in POXO cases and all, age becomes a little important. The kidnap, abduction cases, age is also a factor. And rape case and all, age is very, very important. And juvenile justice, when you talk of such cases, a lot of importance is attached to the age determination. So by using radiography, there is this one technique whereby you can estimate roughly the age of the individual. Of course, now they say birth certificate is going to be the document, like Aadhaar card, it is going to be the crucial document, and any entry into any programs, study, academics, or job or profession. So they are going to say that your birth certificate is very, very important. Anyway, so age determination, and then understanding how many ossification centers have been fused and how many bones have been fused, and then all this will help us in understanding the age, and this will be facilitated by the X-ray radiography. And sometimes in firearm case also, lot of times the bullets find you find that bullets are missing. They are inside the body. Now, in order to know what is the track of this bullet inside the body, whether it remained intact or whether it got broken or fragmented, and then in the process whether bones got fragmented and all. But to know the track of the bullet inside the body also, we do use a lot of X-rays, and then we take photographs of the bullets or any other foreign body. It may be a missile from an explosion also. So all these can be detected with the help of the radiography. So that is one use of radiographs. Then we also need to understand what is digital image processing, why it is subjected to processing. Now we know that whatever images even by the shot by the bystanders or some freelancers or maybe some press people and all. So most of the time they are because they are not taken in a professional way, or maybe some shaking of the hand, or maybe some blurring, and all the images most of the time are not very clear, isn't it? Now even CCTV footages, though we have lot of CCTVs getting installed everywhere, on the roads, on the toll gates, and outskirts and all, you have lot of CCTV cameras getting erected. But the sad part of the story is that most of the time they are not high-end resolution kind of CCTVs. So the result is the footage is either blur, or you are not able to clearly say who the person is. If somebody is kidnapping a girl and then fleeing away or proceeding towards some direction and all, you can at the best say that he is going towards that direction. But the details of the person who is kidnapping, the details of the person who is the pillion driver, rider and all, you will not be able to understand, because most of the time, helmet being very mandatory, you see that the driver is wearing helmet, and then the number plate is also not very clear, because when the object is in motion, and to capture an object in motion in a camera is very, very difficult. It will be so blurred, lot of noise will be there, sensors are not working, light conditions are not favorable. So result is most of the time the CCTV footage or the image that is collected by the investigating officer is not that clear. Either it is distorted, or some inaccuracies are there, noise is dominating, the crucial information is not visible, it is hazy, it is blurred, and also so many problems. The result is that the image is not very clear. Now the purpose of FIO sending such images to the lab is, now how best you can make it little visible, little clearer. What are the enhancing methods do you have, so that you can use those methods and make this invisible or poorly visible kind of an image visible. So this is the process. So there are different steps that are involved in image processing. So it simply means a processing of a digital image by means of a digital computer, because you are going to feed that into the computer, that image is going to be fed into the computer, and a lot of manipulations, rather enhancing tools are being used, and the purpose of using this is to reduce the noise, to clear the, to enhance the visibility, and then to improve the contrast and make things visible, so that the information that is inside the image can be deciphered. The goal of the digital image processing is, as I told you, to enhance the quality. To enhance the quality which is otherwise submitted in a raw form, which is not very clear at all. Now extract the meaningful information from the image. What is the meaningful image? For example, a case of a hit and run. Now hit and run, that means a vehicle which goes with a very high speed, in the process hits a pedestrian and then doesn't bother about his health condition. Maybe he is getting injured, or maybe he is profusely bleeding, or maybe he is in the verge of death and all. He doesn't bother. Just it hits, the vehicle hits and then it flees away from the scene. Now you want to know the information. What kind of digital information in that case you will be requiring? You will be requiring, number one, to identify the owner or the driver of that vehicle, number one. Number two, what is the name plate? Because both the driver as well as the vehicle need to be identified, isn't it? So each vehicle can be identified by its vehicle number. Similarly, person, if it is some personal traits or characters of the person, you will be able to understand, identify the person. Now this being the case, now the CCTV footage is not able to capture the clear image because he is already in the motion and he is going with a very high speed. Now it may not capture a very clear image. Whatever image that is there stored in the CCTV is a very blurred image. Now it is for the expert, FSL expert, to tell what is the number of that. That is a kind of an information that is inside the digital image, very vital information. Now, so the purpose of submitting such digital images to the lab is to enhance the quality, number one, and number two, extract the meaningful information from the image and automate image based tasks. So these are all the expectations from the lab. I hope you have understood what digital image processing means. So the processes happens not in police station, but it happens in the lab, because they have a lot of tools, softwares, with the help of which they will try to enhance the visibility of the digital image, otherwise whose quality is very poor and all, or probably identify the person, or probably identify the vehicle and all. I mean, these are the this is the kind of information that the IO will be seeking from the FSLs. Now, there are, as I said, the reasons for low quality of image. So whatever image that is being submitted by the police, why there is a compromise in the quality? What are the factors that attribute to the low quality of the image? So we need to understand. Once we know the root cause, why this quality is that poor, if you try to understand, accordingly the suitable software can be used, and then whatever is needful from the IO point of view, that kind of a technique can be meted out to the digital image, and you will generate at the end of the process a very good quality, a high resolution kind of an image, where you can also extract lot of crucial information, vital information from the image that will definitely help the IO in solving the cases. Now, what are all the defects? What are all the factors that affect the quality of the image? If you try to understand, I try to list out as many as 5 kind of factors that are responsible for the low quality of the image. One is light effects, because wherever you go, it may be during the crime may happen during night, or it may happen at the peak of the hour, or maybe the vehicle is on move, blur is there because of the motion, because of the running of the vehicle and all, and lens may be, there is a lot of distortion in the lens, or thermal noise may be there, or maybe the person who is going to film the entire thing, his hands may be shaking, the video signal may be distorted, or video signal may be poor and all. So there are so many factors that make that are responsible for lowering the quality of the image. Now it is very important for the investigating officer as well as the scientist who is submitted with a problem to understand what is the root cause, why there is a low quality in this particular image, what factor is responsible for this poor quality. So once he understands that, he can appropriately employ the corresponding kind of a software and then bring out the clear image of the digital piece of evidence that is submitted to him. Then, so as we know, in the digital image processing is not a one step process. It involves a lot of steps. Now we will understand now what are all the different steps that are involved in image processing. Now for image processing, at least there should be an image. That means there is an acquisition of image, that particular stage. So what is this? You are trying to capture the image of that particular object. You can use for this process either a digital camera or a scanner, or maybe it is importing already existing image into a computer. So there is some image of a particular photograph that has already been stored in the computer. Now what you want to do is you want to manipulate that, and then if there is some haziness or if there is something not very clear, now you export that because it's already there in the computer. You are trying to import that image and then do the required manipulation and then generating the clear image. So it can be capturing image or capturing image and doing the manipulation, or it is already there in the computer, you are only trying to import that and then trying to manipulate. So this stage is called the image acquisition stage. Now there is another stage called image enhancement. So we have understood in the previous slides that what enhancement is. So this word of enhancement is used both in case of digital photography also and in case of fingerprints also, because normally fingerprints which are latent are not visible. The ones which are available in the crime scenes are not visible, hence they are called invisible, and in order to make invisible print appear visible, we use a lot of enhancement techniques. That means visibility. Enhancement here we have to understand, not enlargement. Enhancement in the sense that you are making it more visible so that you can study the characteristic features of that particular print. Here also in digital image we use the word enhancement in the context that we want to know the digital visual information that is there in the digital image, and since the quality is not very clear, now you are going to use some methodology, some software, some processes which will improve the quality of the image, which will improve the quality. So it can be by increasing the contrast, or maybe by reducing the noise, or maybe whatever artifacts that are generated out of these techniques. So because in the process there may be some loss of information also. So you have to remove that artifact also. So all that is called, the process is given a separate name called the image enhancement. So the first stage is image acquisition. Here you try to acquire the image of that article of interest. Then next step will be the image enhancement. You are going to enhance the visibility of the image. Then comes the image restoration. If suppose a photograph is so badly old photograph and then there are cracks all over the photograph, then it is torn here and there, I mean faces are not very clear. This is a kind of a degraded, damaged kind of an image. All that you have is only that. Now there is a lot of blurring also, there is noise also, and there is distortion. So what you are trying to do in this process of restoration is that old photo you are trying to take, use the algorithms, mathematical calculations, and then the software. The software is inbuilt and it has lot of mathematical calculations in that, and then it has got lot of algorithms in that, and whose function is to remove these kind of artifacts or remove these kind of noises and remove these kind of distortions and make it and bring it back to the original. That is restoration. You are bringing it back to the original quality. So hence this stage is called the image restoration. Now what is image segmentation? So as the name implies, segmentation. Now the digital image is divided. It is divided into portions called the segments or regions, and each region or each segment has got a specific feature of a particular object. So your interest is to study that particular special feature of that object. That will become easy for us once you start segmenting it, or once you start dividing the entire image into smaller segments, so that each segment by itself can be examined as a separate unit, and then a cumulative effect of all that will give you a clear image, or it will help in enhancing the beauty of the image. So that is called image segmentation. All that we try to do in segmentation is the entire image whose characteristic we want to study is divided into regions or segments, and each segment will ensure that there is some particular object whose property we are going to study. So like that all segments are studied, and a cumulative effect of all that study will be compiled, and it will give you a very good picture of the image, clarity picture of the image. That is segmentation. Then comes next, representation and description is the next step. So this is this will facilitate the image to analyze and then manipulate by computer, because since it is fed to the computer, you can do all kinds of manipulation. So what manipulation? But without compromising the vital information. In the process of removing the noise, you should not manipulate the image to such a drastic stage where even the vital information is lost. So you have to choose the software tool in such a way that it only removes the unwanted noise portion of the digital image, not the vital information, isn't it? Now, it is analyzed, and then since it is fed to the computer, it can be manipulated. So you need to describe the feature of the image, and you have to make it so compact and all. Then you can derive the required information, the meaningful information in a meaningful way. That is called the representation and description part. And then comes the analysis portion. Now, as I said, the software is inbuilt. It has got both the algorithms and then mathematical models, calculation, and whatever information exactly you are wishing to extract from that image, you will be able to do it. And the analysis will give you not only recognizing the objects, it is able to detect some patterns. If they are there, unique patterns, it is going to detect those patterns, and then it is also going to quantify certain features, and a consolidated kind of a report is going to give. The image analysis is that stage. Now, image synthesis and compression. Now, this involves generating a new image or compressing the existing image, because as I said, any image, whatever format it is there, either bitmap or JPEG or whatever, is going to occupy some space. Now, in order to save more data or not, probably you need to compress the format. So, in the process of compressing the existing images, or if you want to generate some new images also, so there is a stage called image synthesis and compression. This is another stage. Now, so these are all some of the stages. You can see here, extreme left hand, you see the enhancement. I mean, there are two photos again. The leftmost is the unprocessed one, where it is a poor image is submitted. Now, after the appropriate software being used and all, there is a lot of improvement in the quality that happens because of the image enhancement. There are a lot of tools available, softwares available to do this kind of image enhancement. And extreme right, if you see, there are two photos again given. The one which is on the left side of the image restoration figure, you see that lot of, because that photograph being little old and all, because we try to back up the old memories and all. Maybe that is one photograph of one grandfather, so it's so old and all, it is torn everywhere. So you want to restore that image. So this is quite possible by using some software, some mathematical calculation, algorithms and all. Now you can remove that other background distortions and all, and you get a very clear picture of the other side. So this is enhancement and this is restoration. Now, there is other important aspect, forensically very, very important when you talk of the digital photography, that is called metadata. Metadata is nothing but data of data. That means, so a photograph is taken, on what date it is taken, what is the size of the particular file. If you right click on the properties, probably you will see all these things. So when it is generated, what is the resolution of that, whether it has been subjected to edition or not. So these parameters you get in the metadata. So metadata is also very, very important when you talk of authentication of the digital photograph. So metadata is nothing but data of data. That is when it is created, what is the size of it, what is the resolution, which appliance has taken this. That means, is it through the camera or is it through mobile? So what is it through scanner and all, how the what is the implement that you have used to take the image of that, and whether that's been subject to alteration or some abnormal editing has happened to this and all. These things are very important when you talk of metadata. Then, so there are again three different almost tools for digital image forensics. As we said, maybe for the purpose of enhancement and all, we have three. We did not study, at least for the purpose of completion, we have to study three at least. One is EXIF tool, JPEG Snoop, then you have forensically. So each has got its own advantage and disadvantage, and when you talk of EXIF tool, the original file is created, then you need to compare it with the file that got modified data-wise, date-wise and time-wise. This tool will help us in comparing the original versus the manipulated one, and it is able to give you a clear picture. Now similarly, JPEG Snoop is one such tool available to the forensics, which shows image whether it is processed, whether it is original or whether it is manipulated, edited and all. It is going to give you that. Now the forensically is a tool that is being used basically for web-based collection tools, and it is used forensically to know whether a particular image has been cloned or is there a copy of that, and then what is the error level analysis, and then what is the metadata extraction. That means when is it created, what is the size and resolution and all. So the metadata regarding the image can be obtained by using forensically tool, and magnifying functions, noise analysis, all these are there with the forensic tool. Forensically, it is called, the tool is called forensically. Then, so what is the utility of this digital photography in forensics? If you see now, photographs, when you want to take a good photograph, the first requisite is you need to have a very high-end, high-quality, high-end version DSLR, isn't it? Now, you need to have a lot of lenses which are interchangeable, and then you need to have flash, you need to have cable release, and you need to mount this camera onto a tripod. And all these are the minimum requirements when somebody wants to take a very good photograph. These are must. And you cannot take a crime scene or dead body to the courtroom, so only option left for you is visual representation, and digital photography is the best visual representation that you can reproduce and show it to the court. Then, so witnesses and all, of course, suspects and all, from court point of view, they are also important, but then there is no rule and guarantee that these people will always tell the truth, and then whatever they have seen, they are accurately going to depict that, or accurately going to utter the same thing in the court and all is impossibility. So photographs are the best ones, which can replace even the human beings. They like signatures, handwritings and all, fingerprints. These can be captured better only in the photographs, enlarged photographs. So these are some advantages. And sketch versus photography. So what are the advantages photograph has got? Now sketch has got its own advantage, and then of course photography also you can show the distances. That the sketch you can give more picturesque description, and photograph initially the fragile kind of what you call the evidences, like a flame is coming, an explosive explosion has happened, and then flame has reached that height and all. You cannot perhaps show that in the in a sketch, but a video or visual of the same incidents is a better alternative that you can think of. So that is one complements the other one, but then given given the choice, photography is better, and much more better will be your video with pause and all, so that you can also add voice over and then say what is exactly happening in the scene and all will be helpful. So what are the steps involved in crime scene photography? I need not reiterate. Then you need to take the overall, then close up, then the distances related to distance when you go for close up, mid range and all. What are all the details that should figure in and especially injuries and all. Some bruises and all. Of course, the secret writings and all, you may have to use some special filters like UV filter, IR filter, and other kind of invisible rays you may have to use and take the photograph. It's not a kind of a quick photograph and all, and the crime scene photograph is a completely a different specialization altogether. One has to master even that. Then document examination, of course, photography also helps. I told you already, the documents can be best preserved as microfilm. You need to have a negative, special negative called microfilm. Then you can capture a miniature form of documents which will occupy less space and which can be stored for a very long time and all. And similarly, injuries also. A color photograph always will depict the true picture of the injuries, and then what is the shape, what is the position, and what vital part it is located, what exactly is it, an incised wound or is it a contusion or kind of bruising and all. I mean, this will be very helpful for them, because after all that you need to show to the judiciary, and then they are the ones who need to be convinced, and accordingly they can either convict the accused or the acquit him. So injuries is one area. Then bullet analysis, this we have already discussed. So you can see on the right side, extreme right side of the photograph, you can see that there are marks which are very, very identical. One half of the image is on account of the questioned empty cartridge case. The other half, on the right side, extreme right side, is the image, digital image of the control or the reference kind of a empty cartridge case obtained through test firing. So there is a complete agreement. Now we have taken a photomicrograph of this, and then we are submitting this photomicrograph to the judge, so that there can be points that can be marked on both the images, and then in the report you can say that this mark, which is on account of this striation, is completely in agreement in both the images, thereby the fact that both of them are fired from the same gun. That kind of a report will be justified by showing these photographs also. And similarly, UV photograph, we have seen that it finds its place in not only identifying the biological fluids and fingerprints and multicolored objects and all, we can view that, and the biological fluids otherwise which have been completely washed off by using luminol and all, we can use the property of fluorescence of the UV light, and then you can also dust the fingerprints otherwise obscure on a multicolored object by using the some fluorescent powders. You can enhance them, and you can also capture them in the photograph by using a special filter called UV. So this anyway we have already discussed all that. Now CCTV image enhancement probably next week. Next week or tomorrow, will you be able to come, or you want it next week? Choice is yours, because we need to complete. Tell me whether tomorrow will you be free, or you want only the next week to be taken up, Monday, Tuesday again. Yes?
And I don't know if others are busy or not.
Then you can decide and tell me. Because Patil is, always he is already working, some drowning or some hanging or some murder will be there for him every day. So, we have to take him as an exception, and if one or two people are